live in a world where we're often encouraged to achieve like someone else, look like someone else, and in essence, be someone else. But I want to challenge you to start thinking about your distinct qualities and how you can have a positive impact on the world around you by simply being true to you. My goal is to help viewers to reclaim their identities, embrace their unique design, and walk in the fullness of who they were created to be. I'm Kim Anthony, and you're watching Identity by Design. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I will be talking with Ginny Tackett. Ginny is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's an executive coach, and she's a Townsend Leadership Director. Ginny, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kim. I'm delighted to be here.
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. Now, tell me what a Townsend Leadership Director is.
I would love to. Townsend Leadership Director is a program that Dr. John Townsend created to just to take leaders into a deeper relational context. We work on leadership character skills, and I just enjoy it immensely.
Wow, that sounds pretty intense. So you bring leaders together and they get to kind of feed off each other. And I bet you there's sometimes when you have leaders who can't really go to anybody else, but then they come together with other leaders who are in the same position and they get to confide in one another. Is that kind of what happens there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes. We work on technical skills, but it's the character development. So many leaders at the top are isolated. They have nowhere to unpack or unload or bring their authentic self to a group. And so they have like-minded people from all different crosswalks that they can just come in and have a safe place.
Nice. I'm sure they enjoy being able to have that safe place. Actually, I referred a friend of mine who is in a top leadership position in her state to one of those types of groups, and she is really excited about starting that this January.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, we have transformational growth. It is just so rewarding to be a part of that program.
Oh, I'm sure. I can imagine. Well, today we're going to be talking about self-acceptance. Now, as I bring up that word, I'm sure as people hear those two words, they might have different definitions of what they think self-acceptance is. So in order for us to be on the same page while we're talking today, I'd like you to first define your definition of self-acceptance.
Yes, my definition of self-acceptance is where I can bring all of me into relationship. Not where I have to hide part of me, where I have to live up to other people's expectations of what they think I should be. I think it's more about I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Wow, that's good. I think that's a great definition. And when I think about self-acceptance, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think about us accepting ourselves in this context of being isolated, but more so accepting who we are in the context of relationships. So will you talk about the effect that relationships have on our self-acceptance?
Oh, I would love to, Kim. I think that is the significant piece of what I do in executive coaching and in my private practice as well, is working on relationship skills and how important that is. So I want to start with, we were created to be in relationship. God created us to be in relationship with Him and others. And I think self-acceptance starts in relationship. As young children, when we can see the delight in our parents' eyes when we walk in the room, then we know I'm worthy, I'm valued. And neuroscience now proves, I love when science proves the Bible to be true, because we have mirror neurons in our brain that react to the eyes and delight in the face of another. So if I am looking for acceptance in your eyes and I don't see it, or I see disgust, or I see something, I might not think I'm worthy. And so I think our self-acceptance is always formed through relationship. We take it in from the outside. We really can't accept ourselves. We have to take it in from another relationship, and it starts in childhood.
You know what? When you were describing that, I was picturing my oldest son when he was a little tiny baby, probably only weeks old, and he was able to see at my face as I would change his diaper. And he would stare intently into my eyes. And I always wondered what he was thinking. But as I'm hearing what you're saying, that is one of the places where he found acceptance in how I responded to him, how I looked, my countenance.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, so true. And you know, and then that develops over time with friendships, significant others, and the read we get. And if we grow up with critical people, or we're not accepted by how we look, or certain, for me, it was always my accent. I have this little southern drawl, and sometimes in high school it might have been made fun of. So I became self-conscious of that. And not until recently have I really embraced that part of me and thought, hey, that's who I am. It's my roots. I'm okay.
Really? So, was there a time when you thought, okay, I need to take speech therapy and get this accent out of there?
Oh,
Really?
just I don't think speech therapy even would help, but I wanted to just slow down and talk properly. It just wasn't me. But I did for a while want to hide that part and was ashamed and embarrassed of it. So I think that's kind of how relationship affects how we view ourselves.
That's so true. Now, what if you are a person and you're living in what I call this partial self acceptance, where there's a part of you where you feel acceptable, lovable, you like it, so you present that best part of you, your best foot forward, so to speak. But then there's another part of you that perhaps you don't like. Maybe you're ashamed of it, you're embarrassed by it, and you think that if anyone ever saw this piece of me, then they won't like me or they won't accept me anymore. Is it ever okay to just do life without fully accepting yourself?
Oh no, never, never, Kim. That's not the abundant life. That's a isolated part of us that doesn't get brought into relationship. This isolated, split off part that doesn't get to fully experience life. So that part of us that we are ashamed of, kind of what I was talking about with my voice, are other areas where if we don't bring them into relationship, we're not fully integrated. We're not our real authentic self. We have split off parts that we hide. I think for me, it was not wanting to be seen as selfish. I think that was a really bad part that my mom, being a martyr mom, would have instilled in me. Oh, if I don't serve like my mother serves, or if I'm not doing that, I must be selfish. I must be a bad little girl. And so that part of me that didn't want to be a martyr, I guess, felt really bad. So it wasn't okay ever to be selfish. But you know what? Sometimes I am selfish. And I just have to,
We all are,
I just
I
I have
think.
to, when I can accept that part of me and I can bring it into relationship and say, right now I'm going to say no to everything because I need some self-care. That's not selfish, but it would have been to me earlier.
Right. I was about to say that. When I think of selfish, I think of just being mean in the sense of just wanting something for yourself, no one else's benefit in mind. But when you talk about that self care, not being selfish, I think that's a whole different story, right? Because I fell into that trap as well. I thought, okay, I need to take care of everybody else but myself. So I'd put myself on the back burner. I ended up burning out, getting depressed, all kinds of negative things. So I wasn't really able to help the people I really loved because I was so
Yes,
worn
and
out.
don't you think so many women get caught in that trap?
Oh my goodness,
Because
yes.
we're supposed to be what everyone else thinks we're supposed to be. And if we're not, we're being selfish and we burn out. Yes. When healthy boundaries is not selfish, it's being a good steward. But that part of me that thought I was being selfish, that was so judged and criticized by the critical judge in my head that said even self care was selfish, that is when I can bring that into relationship, like we were talking about. That judge begins to modulate. He's not as harsh or critical, it becomes more accurate and more. And I can to realize, hey, I'm not selfish. I'm taking care of myself right now.
Right. Which is a
It's a
good
very
thing,
good thing.
right? So what happens when you start to realize that self-care is not selfish And you start to implement the no's. You start to say no to friends or to people at church or in the workplace, social settings, and they don't accept your no, or they feel you're being selfish and they get angry with you. How do you handle
At
that?
first, that was very hard at first because that affected my self acceptance and my self
Oh my goodness.
like, oh man, I am being selfish. Um, but arriving at the truth, and we'll talk more about how you arrive at the truth. But as I began to be in this great growth group that really accepted me for all my parts, I began to accept myself. And so when others get frustrated at my boundaries and when others don't like what I do, I can remember what my growth group said because I could admit my faults and I can, it's if you're upset, that's you. That's not me. That's your woundedness maybe coming out. That's your boundary that's not firm. But I don't have to accept what you say about me.
Wow.
That's good self acceptance.
That is great self-acceptance. And that can be hard, especially when you're dealing with people close to you who are supposed to love you, and you want to be that person in their lives that they love and accept and continue to interact with. But then when you say no, oh, that's a doozy. I just know just from firsthand. I've began to exercise my no muscle.
Good
You'd
for
be
you.
you'd be so proud of me. And the responses have been great. So they've been on two extremes: accepting of that or rejecting it, saying, "What are you doing?" or getting angry with me or never talking with me again because I said no to a request. So it's a growth process, as you said.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yes. Not relying on what another person says about me. That's not where my self worth comes from. I have to take it from the inside, but it's kind of this balancing act of you have to sort out the criticism and accept the truth. What is the truth? And being honest and being authentic and bringing all of me into relationship.
That's good. So healthy. Okay, true or false? Self-accepting people are self-sufficient people.
False. Very false. A self-sufficient person is very isolated. Actually, they don't they aren't able to bring their needs to relationship because it's through our needs and through being vulnerable that we can take in um, the grace from other people that build our self-esteem.
But what
I love Brene Brown's work on gifts of imperfection. That's when we're imperfect that we can take the gift of grace from another person. So if I'm a self-sufficient person, I will never allow my needs to be known because I'm sufficient. I don't need anyone. I don't
Mhm.
need anybody else. So it's a very lonely life to be self-sufficient.
I can imagine. But at the same time, there's some people who feel, well, that they have it all together, they can do it on their own. And do you think there's a fear of looking weak or appearing weak? Do you think that's the reason that they don't want people to know that they need help, or that they're vulnerable, or have negative thoughts or self-defeating thoughts at times?
Absolutely. I think that is the number one obstacle when I work with executives
Uh-huh.
because they're supposed to know it all. They're the leader, they're at the top. And to each month when we come together, one of the things that check in is I have to ask the group what I need today. And it's like deer in headlights. We're like, need? What's a need? I don't have needs. That's weak. And as they begin to recognize, I have a need, I need to be validated, I need to be accepted, I need affirmation today. And those nutrients go in and they just are not so self sufficient. And they learn, wow, I do have needs and my needs are important.
That's great. Now, I think about the leaders, what your CEOs, like your C-suite group, where perhaps, I don't know, is it a good thing that they let everyone know their needs, or do they need to have that special kind of growth group that is personal and private, where they can feel the
Sure.
the ability to be vulnerable without being compromised?
Oh, sure. That is the utmost importance, just to have a safe place,
Hmm.
a very safe place to take risk with your vulnerability. There, in the workplace, we call it a professional vulnerability, where I can admit if I made a mistake and I can be more transparent. But in our leadership growth groups, it's very much a vulnerable, safe place.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Now, as we bring our time to a close, are there any final words that you'd like to share with us that will encourage us in the area of self-acceptance? Any steps that we can take? Any things that you want us to remember so that as we walk away from this program, we have, a little takeaway?
Yes, I do. I think it's being a risk taker, to take the risk of being seen as maybe a little needy, to take that risk to be vulnerable. And it is a risk because when we're vulnerable, not everyone can connect to that. Some people are very frightened by our vulnerability. And so you put your toe in the water and you test it and you share something safe. And if they say, yeah, tell me more, I'd like to hear more about that, you've got a safe person. But if they are, oh no, I don't know what to do that, or say, hey, how's the weather? Then you know, okay, I'm not gonna go deeper with this person.
Right.
But I would recommend to find that safe person, find that safe group where you can begin to unpack and bring your needs into relationship and feel the grace and acceptance that's there for you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us about self-acceptance. And I would love to have you back to talk about some other topics that I believe will be helpful for all of us as we try to walk in our authentic identity.
I would love to, Kim, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. With Ginny Tackett, I'm Kim Anthony. Until next time, keep doing you. Thanks for watching. You've been watching Identity by Design. If you'd like to share your thoughts or recommend a topic, please leave a comment or email us at trueyou@theidchallenge.com. That's TRUEU@THEIDchallenge.com.